Welcome back to another edition of the Net Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again are my co-hosts, Richie and Alec Krauthamel. We have another commitment to talk about in the class of 2026. This time, Tanner Raymond, who's coming in as a linebacker from the Choate School in Connecticut. It's a prestigious boarding school in Connecticut. We also have a few commits who might be visiting elsewhere, maybe have visited elsewhere. We'll get into the implications of that and a couple other smaller news items. But before we get into any of that, this podcast is presented to you by MyBookie. It's crunch time on the court, and the NBA playoffs are your chance to score big. Whether you're riding with the favorites or cheering for the underdog, every three-pointer, dunk, and buzzer beater is an opportunity to win at MyBookie. Place your bets live as the action unfolds, and if you're feeling confident, lock in your winnings early with our quick cash-out option. Never miss a chance to turn your basketball insights into real cash. If you're new to MyBookie, you can sign up today with our promo code MM50 and instantly boost your first deposit. If you deposit $50, MyBookie will toss in an extra $25, deposit $100, and you'll get a $50 bonus. It'll match you 50%. More action, more excitement, and more chances to win during basketball's most intense playoff season. Plus, when your game's wrapped up, you can keep the winning streak alive at MyBookie's casino. You have slots, blackjack, roulette, and more. The thrills never stop. You bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. All right, let's talk about Tanner Raymond. This is a kid who did not get an offer until a few days before his official visit, takes the official visit, and commits to the Scarlet Knights as expected. Rich, how did Rutgers wrap this one up, and then how did they identify Tanner Raymond?
So basically he came to a camp about a week, or what are we at now? We're the 18th. A couple weeks ago now. One of the first Chop Elite camps. They worked him out. They saw him. They're like, all right, he's pretty solid. Let's just see what happens with some other things. Obviously, Shaw was still committed at one point. Edwards, we'll talk about a little bit later. So they realistically kind of had one linebacker left. So once Shaw decided to decommit and go elsewhere, I shouldn't say decommit because that one we'll probably talk about
dropped,
that too. Yeah, he was basically like, oh, because you can't visit elsewhere. They basically sent him an offer, got him on campus pretty quickly, and that was it. Simple as that. There's really not much more to it. Now, what does he bring? It's a giant question mark, basically, because he doesn't really play that much linebacker. Well, he does a little bit, but it's mostly tight end. So it's a very, very interesting addition. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, his highlight tape is almost all on offense. Alec, what did you think of him on tape as a player?
I mean, like you said, the highlights are mostly on offense, but there's a lot to like with his athleticism. You see him, I mean, he's lined up out wide a lot. He's also in line at times, but mostly out wide, and there's definitely lots to like athletically. And then on the defensive highlights, he's actually mostly at defensive end. So we haven't seen a lot of him at like, inside linebacker, anything like that. So there's not a whole lot to go off of, but the athletic floor is definitely there. So I guess we're seeing a trend continue where the staff is kind of going after some kids with really high athletic floors and seeing if they can develop them as time goes on. Obviously, we've talked about that a lot with a lot of guys, whether it was Joey Kopech at linebacker or when Adam Shaw was committed, talking about him as a really good athlete and looking to develop the rest of his game. So it seems like that's kind of another one of these types of ads. I also find it interesting that he gotten some FCS offers. And like throughout the last like year or so, he didn't get his first FBS offer until James Madison offered the day before Rutgers offered. So I wonder if they also saw something from that Chop Elite camp or anything like that. I guess it is an interesting coincidence with Zach Sparber formerly being the linebackers coach there. I'm sure they were at least in a little bit of contact while he was still there. But then Rutgers offered, and then he was on his official visit last weekend, and then that was that. But yeah, definitely a guy who is also much like some of the other linebacker commits in this class, has more of an athletic floor, and we haven't seen a whole lot of him at linebacker, so I'm interested to see how that goes. Like you can see on the highlight tape a lot of defensive end, a lot of kickoff coverage as well. We saw some highlights there, which is always good to see on special teams, and obviously tight end as well. So it's an interesting get. I'm curious to see how this one develops.
Now, Rich, did he just totally blow the staff away at camp? Because this one, like there's not the same kind of like wow plays we see with most of the players that we have in this class on his tape. Certainly the athleticism shows up, especially when he's like, toasting DBs pretty regularly, but What was the story about his performance at camp?
He's just really fast. He runs a 4.66 40, I think it was 4.6 40
Laser
yard
time?
dash. Yeah, well, on a laser.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's pretty impressive speed wise. He's got a 38-inch vertical. You watch his basketball tape too, and you could see he is very athletic. He's got dunks. He's got this. He's got that. I think it's on there somewhere. Yeah, there you go. So he is pretty athletic. It's just I just question this one a lot. Like, and more than likely, he's kind of just replacing Adam Shaw, who's also crazy athletic, but really had no linebacker tape. So it's like it's going to be an interesting get. I think this linebacker class in general is a little bit questionable. And you see what they're trying to do. They're trying to go for the athletic molds and then someone that you could form into a linebacker. Is that going to work? To be determined. I don't know. I do question some things here with the linebacker recruiting, but I guess you just trust the staff and see what they can do with them. Plus, you got to remember they brought in what? How many last year? 5.
Yeah, that's a good point. They did have a pretty stacked linebacker class.
That's the thing.
It's also interesting that was really the only position that they didn't target a ton of guys in the portal either. Obviously, you like what you had. What you had with Motore if he came back. Obviously, he's no longer here. You love what you got in Jabome. There's a few guys I'm sure the staff thinks can take a step forward this year, but yeah, we'll see if they end up adding a guy late at linebacker for the 25 season. So speaking of linebacker recruiting, though, I know last week we talked about the possibility of Justin Edwards taking a Miami visit. At the time, we were told that wasn't going to happen, but it did. Let's talk about Justin Edwards and his Miami trip.
Yeah, so on again, off again, on again, off again type situation. He wasn't going to visit as of, what was it, Wednesday? No, Thursday, actually. He wasn't going to visit. His head coach even told me, reassured it. Miami guys that talked to the staff down there said, yeah, no, he's not on the list we got. Like, it's not going to happen, not going to happen. Then he goes and visits anyway. It's like, okay, cool. Well, Greg Schiano has one rule, and we know that rule. Unless you're a high 4-star kid, which it's just like life. Different rules for different people. He's not. So I think you kind of want to know where this one's going to go in the future, whether it be near future in a couple days. But you can't visit elsewhere if you're committed. That's a Greg Schiano rule. Other coaches around the country have that rule. I know some people hate it, some people despise it, but that's just the way it is with recruiting. And colleges have all the advantages now too. People need to secure their spots ASAP or they get lost or left out in the shuffle. Hence Kai Pritchard, basically, who's now at Illinois instead of Rutgers or even Boston College, you could argue. But so by visiting elsewhere, you kind of just cost yourself a spot. So you better hope Miami's going to take you because otherwise you might be shit out of luck. And that almost, I was told, almost happened to Adam Shaw too. So, but it didn't. He's obviously at Michigan State now. It ended up working out for him. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does. But they missed on one target right before him and then hosted him anyway. And if they didn't miss out on that target, I don't know if Adam Shaw is a Michigan State commit. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes intricacies behind it. So I get where Greg's coming from, and he's always said, like, it's the girlfriend analogy. You can't date multiple girls at the same time. It's one girl, I'm your girlfriend, or I'm your wife, et cetera, et cetera. You can't go find another one.
No, that's a good point. And it's a bummer because while maybe Justin Edwards doesn't have that high 4-star, label on him, he is a guy that I know the staff loves and is a super strong athlete for the position. What do you think the odds are that Rutgers is able to hang on to Justin Edwards, though?
Probably slim to none, for being honest. It sucks because he's by far, and I hate to talk bad about the other linebackers, and this isn't really a knock on them. It's just he's by far the best linebacker they have committed. So it's like, it definitely hurts. He loves Rutgers. I mean, he spurned Syracuse, basically, to go to Rutgers. Loved everything about it. And then there's people in the background that always play a factor, and those people in the background kind of forced his hand to go to visit Miami. And now those people in the background are like, oh, wait a second. Like, we can get a little slice of the pie, too. Let's do that. Let's go there. Like, that's 10 times better. So it does suck at the end of the day, but I'd be shocked if he stayed committed.
That's a bummer. Really liked him as a recruit. There's another player who's right now scheduled to take an official visit who's currently committed to Rutgers. That is Rihyael Kelley, who is planning on visiting Alabama this weekend as of right now. What are you hearing with his recruitment and his potential visit there?
right now would be the keywords. The staff is trying to sway him against that. I know they have a great relationship with him. Vic Hall's built that bond pretty good with not just him, but his brother too, who's a 2027. And I think he just got a Cincinnati offer, a Marshall offer. Like it's a solid little prospect that you might have to keep an eye on down the road. But either way, they built a great relationship with Kelley. It was kind of almost etched in stone that he was going to commit to Rutgers, even though he was still committed to Toledo. Once he got that Rutgers offer, once they had that in-home, we were on here talking about it. Like Toledo just stopped like trying basically. Now, they still hosted him for an OV on May 30th, but once he got the Rutgers that June 6th, it was like if you had to pick out of that list of 12 to 15 guys who was going to commit that weekend, that was like number one right there. It was done. So he does love Rutgers a lot. He likes everything about it. It's hard to tell a kid not to go visit like Alabama. Like I've been there. I've been lucky enough to be there. It is crazy, just the world of difference, like SEC, not just SEC, but Alabama itself. And the championships. Now, mind you, that I went when Saban was still there. I think it's a different Alabama under Kalen DeBoer, and you're seeing their struggles on the recruiting trail. They only have 10 guys right now. So they'll probably end up landing a bunch of other 4-stars when it's all said and done. But right now they're having some struggles, and Kelley's tape is not 3-star tape. Like that is a 4-star on Huddle. I don't know how he slipped through the cracks, but sometimes it just happens. I think as of right now, he probably still visits. I don't know if that's going to be a scenario where the rules will apply to him because you just missed out on a Messiah Tilson. You have, 2 other safeties committed? Chris Hewitt? No, am I missing one? There's someone else. So it's like a weird Sebastian Cruz, right? Yeah, so it's Sebastian Cruz and Chris Hewitt as the 2 safeties, and this would be the 3rd safety. But they do run the 4-2-5, so you're probably going to see 2 to 3 safeties out there, almost, if not 3 safeties out there, more plays than not. So we'll see. I think even if he does visit, I think the staff says, hey, like just do your visit. We'll talk to you when you get back and go from there. So we'll see if they can convince him otherwise. Or maybe just, hey, don't visit. Problem solved.
Easy way to resolve that problem. Yeah, just don't do it. But at the same time, it's really hard to turn down Alabama or Miami if you're a Florida kid. Is there anyone else that we should be aware of for anything going on, maybe behind the scenes that might result in another visit, or not really?
I don't think there's going to be any other visits. It sounds like it's pretty much done, but every time I say that, something happens. Now, do they lose Rihyael Kelley? Do you just start kicking the tires again on Jet Goldsberry, who we know is a little bit down the safety board, but we'll probably make a decision, July 5th? We'll see what happens there. Trying to think who else. There's really not that many uncommitted guys. Kedrick Golston, the second, we heard that he's a little bit lower on Georgia's board, and he's a Georgia legacy. It always felt like this was going to go Georgia's way. So right now, Rutgers is in a great spot. We'll see if they can land a 4-star. Tyson Harley, the edge rusher, felt like it was Rutgers or Penn State going back and forth. Rutgers feels a little confident in Harley and who am I missing? What did I just say? Golston. So we'll see what happens with those 2, but it's kind of a dull ending to the official visit cycle right now for Rutgers, but who knows? You win those 2 and momentum shifts right back in your favor.
Love to hear that. What else is going on with recruiting? I know Kai Pritchard just committed to Illinois today. He is a guy that has been long trending away from Rutgers, but we thought it'd be Boston College. Any other players that you have an update on recruiting-wise?
Carter Gooden's going to take one more visit this weekend. He'll make a decision. He's kind of a tweener between end and tackle. Wants to play defensive end, but probably will gain weight and become a tackle. So that one goes back and forth. Jesse Moody will take one more visit this weekend. I think it's Wake Forest this weekend, or did Wake Forest last weekend, Maryland this weekend. We'll make a decision after that. I feel like Rutgers is in a pretty good spot there. They need corners. They need corners badly. There are a couple guys still on the board in Koshi Barnes, Jamarius Connors, Devontae Anderson. So they just need some cornerbacks in this class. As of right now, what do they have? 1 and Brandon Murray, and I think that's it. So it's similar to linebacker. You need some bodies there. I don't know what they're going to do if they don't land any of those guys, but we're going to wait and see how those guys end up making their decision over the next probably week to 2 weeks, something like that. So, that's pretty much it right now. It's kind of quiet for 26s, and then 27s is where it's going to start ramping up soon.
Anybody to keep an eye out on early for maybe an early commit in the 27 class for the Scarlet Knights?
That is a tough one. I just did an article on Brian Porter. I feel like there's 0% shot there. Not only because his brother is Quincy Porter, but his brother is Quincy Porter, who just signed with Ohio State. Brian Porter, literally, not even like 10 hours ago, got an Ohio State offer. So, see ya, basically. Jersey wise, there's a long list of kids in New Jersey. 27 class is actually really, really talented for Jersey. I think there's a couple in the Rivals 250, and I don't want to say notoriously, but in recent history, there really has been like 1 to 2 in the Rivals 250 for New Jersey. This cycle, I think there's 4 to 5, if I recall correctly. So there's going to be a lot of different schools getting involved in Jersey this year. You want to see Rutgers get more involved with it in the future, just because they have one Jersey kid right now. Like, that's kind of crazy. Xavier Saab, they're probably out on because his brother's not going to Rutgers now. It sounds like I'll have a whole article actually out tomorrow of a bunch of 27s that they reached out to this week, because this week it used to be September 1st, but it was June 15th this week is when you can finally send a text to a recruit in the 27 class. Like, there's just stupid rules. So they all send graphics out basically. But Rutgers ended up sending out, like, I want to say 20 plus graphics. So the only one that could be an early commit, I'd say, though, to go all the way back to your question, and I'm going to butcher this one. So I'm just going to call him Olu Bobo. I still butchered it. St. Peter's Prep offensive tackle, 6'6", 260-ish. I've seen him a couple times in person work out between Under Armour camp and I think it was Rutgers camp, actually. And he's solid, but it sounds like Rutgers is in the early lead there, but he also did just add like Florida, Ohio State, Minnesota, so Texas even. So we'll see how that one ended up playing out. But Rutgers is in a good spot early on there.
Good to hear. Is there anything else Rutgers related that we wanted to hit before we head out of here today? I know baseball's gotten a lot of commits. Alec, if you wanted to touch on any of those in the transfer portal.
Yeah, they've been getting some commits in the transfer portal. Obviously, last night they got one from Vincent Borghese. I think I'm saying that right, from Central Connecticut State. He was one of their top pitchers. They made the NCAA tournament as well. He actually led the country with 6 complete games. Pretty impressive.
Wow.
A bit of a workhorse last year. Also got some pitchers, some other local pitchers from that similar level. From Fairleigh Dickinson, they got Jordan Savignon. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. And then Jacob Peterson from Stony Brook. They also got a really intriguing add an infielder, Ryan Jaros from North Carolina State. Originally from Cranford, played at Georgia Tech his freshman year and then sophomore year at North Carolina State. And now he's at Rutgers. We're seeing them kind of do this a little bit more. Where they're bringing back guys that were kind of highly rated recruits that haven't exactly panned it out at the big time level. They entered the transfer portal and they come back. I think Mark Jaluzzi, I think, was the one last year, the catcher. Although that didn't work out as well, he's back in the transfer portal. But they're doing what they kind of do a lot in terms of pitching. They like to add a lot of guys from that have pretty solid traits at some lower levels, seeing if they can develop them at the Big Ten level. So, usually with the baseball transfer portal as well, we see them kind of just add a bunch of names at once. So I would assume, or I would guess, that we'll probably see some more ads soon if I had to guess. I don't have any names or anything like that, but these things tend to happen a lot at once. Also, we have official confirmation that the blackout game will be for Iowa on September 19th, Friday night. Second year in a row, it's on a Friday night.
Which shouldn't surprise anybody. We've been kind of telegraphing that be happening. Let's touch on the AD search a bit. I know that we were expecting that to kind of wrap up. Obviously, it didn't. Rich, are you hearing anything regarding the AD search and if that timeline has changed at all?
Yeah, a little bit. As you guys probably know, if you read all the articles, like Politi said it was going to happen last week. I heard it was going to happen this week. It looks like there's a meeting for July 8th. So I would assume that's the timeline now. It's a special virtual meeting for the Board of Governors July 8th. Keep an eye out for that. I think that's probably going to be the one. There's really no rush, so to speak, but should be done sooner rather than later. But I have heard that someone did accept the offer like a couple days ago. So now it's kind of like, okay, like it's done unofficially, but officially not official.
Yeah, I think there's more moving parts than maybe meets the eye, and that's kind of the most I can say about it right now. But Cool.
We could touch on the Ace Bailey thing real quick if you have time.
Yeah, let's do that. Ace Bailey has been in the news cycle.
Not for good reasons.
Not for good reasons. I think NBA Draft Express on Twitter, or just Draft Express, I'm sorry, on Twitter, saying his stock is dropping, that he's not working out for teams. Rich, what are you hearing regarding Ace Bailey's draft stock?
Yeah, his agent apparently has went out and told a bunch of teams saying like, "Hey, he's not going to work out for anyone. He's a top 3 guy. You don't need to see him work out." And that's kind of the Shedeur Sanders route. And it's like he's a top 3 guy, and he doesn't need to work out. And that backfired pretty bad for him. Now, is Ace Bailey going to go into the second round undrafted? Hell no. Like there's jokes on Twitter like if actually one NBA draft analyst said, quote unquote, if you're the number 3 team and you're the Sixers and you draft Ace, you're kind of like a little disappointed. You're like, oh, okay. I mean, I could see the upside. It makes sense. But if you're like, say, hypothetically, and I only know this because I'm a Nets fan, and he's like, if the Nets get him at 8, you're like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, so the upside's there with Ace, and I get it. There's a lot of downfalls. He's young, though, and there's a lot of teachable things. So him not working out for teams is kind of just pissing people off. And you wouldn't really do that unless you have a guarantee from a specific team. And it sounds like Washington could be that specific team at 6. Do you really want to go to Washington personally? No, that's probably the worst team in the league right now. So I don't know. It's between him and Jordan Poole taking shots, though. You want to talk about toxic? That would be fun to watch for a game, not for 82 games. But yeah, I think there's connections there. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think honestly, Washington probably guarantees you almost no, I shouldn't say guaranteed. It's very close to being guaranteed that you'll get a second deal with them because they're so desperate for a star that they're going to wait for you to develop as long as they can. So,
yeah, I guess in the short term, it wouldn't be, I guess, very appealing because of, again, the talent deficit that they're dealing with. But there's some young pieces that have some intrigue. If you add Ace Bailey to the mix, I mean, you already got Bub Carrington and Alexander Sarr, who you drafted last year, who showed some pretty good flashes. Bilal Coulibaly's in there too, so they have some kind of like young nucleus around there. So if you add Ace Bailey as like your go-to scorer type guy, there's a lot of complementary pieces in there as well. So it could work. I guess it remains to be seen how much you trust their development because we haven't really seen a lot because their team is so young. We haven't really seen a lot of like long-term development. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Also on the basketball note, the both teams are back on campus for summer practices.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they had their first practices this week. You will get a chance to go out and see them in the next couple weeks and let you guys know what we see. But yeah, it's starting again. Everything's kind of getting back into the swing of things. Football camp will be here before we know it. But yeah, that's kind of all we got.
Appreciate end of June.
Yeah, it's that weird time of year where there's stuff going on, but there's not really a whole lot of real stuff going on. So we will keep you in the loop with anything that is happening, and stay tuned to the boards because that's where we will always break the news first. But for me, Richie and Alec, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast, signing off.